Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. Again, I'm your co-host, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Ellen, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, we're going to continue on our venture here of giving some little bit of instruction and or guidance.
Some hints.
Some hints. Okay, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
When it comes to, starting seeds indoors.
Okay.
And the last time around, we talked about light. And we talked about growing medium. And if you have questions about either of these, you can always call the garden hotline and we'll get back to you. And that number here in town is 814-825-0900. And it will probably end up being me that gets back to you. So I'll be happy to do that. But today we want to talk about what? Temperature and moisture, right?
Right.
And when we talk about temperature, the temperature of these for growing these seedlings it's most important when you just plant them, when they're at the germination stage.
Okay.
That is from the time when you put the seeds in the ground until they pop up through the ground and develop a couple sets of leaves. That's the time when the temperature is so very, very important, because that's the time when those little baby plants, and that's what they are, baby plants, okay, are most sensitive to the overall temperature. And,
so what should the temperature be?
Well, primarily above 60 degrees for sure. But a lot of them do a whole lot better between, the low 70s and the low 80s. And that's probably where you want to kind of keep the temperature. But some of the things, they can tolerate things a little bit lower than that, but the germination period will be prolonged because of that. So, kind of keep that in mind. Also, when it comes to providing that heat, okay, there's some nice ways of doing it. Okay, you can buy those germination mats, which they sell in catalogs in some of the home and garden stores, which are really nice. They're electric, and I have a couple of them at home.
I have one too.
And I use them extensively. They're really nice tools to have. But before that, I cheated the system.
Okay.
Like everybody,
right.
like everybody else did, And I had a couple of empty milk jugs around the house, and I would fill them up with warm water, hot water, hot as I could, and I'd place them underneath the trays because the tray sat on a table, and I would put them underneath the table.
Oh, clear. Underneath the table.
Yeah. And a couple times a day, I would change that water, and believe it or not, that provided enough heat. Now, I needed more than just a couple of gallon jugs. I probably did 3 or 4, but it worked.
Okay.
But one of the things I want to tell you not to use is don't use any, medical heating pads, under your seed trays. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to cause a fire.
Right,
they're not designed for that.
Right.
So think about what you want to do and how you want to provide that heat. Okay, but be careful. Okay, don't create a fire hazard for yourself.
So when can you take that heat away from those?
Well, once the plants develop 2 sets of leaves, they're much more tolerant of some fluctuations in temperature. But prior to that, try to provide, a warm environment some way.
Try to keep it steady too,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Well, what about moisture, Ellen?
Well, moisture is very, very important. However, just remember, you don't like standing in water and having wet feet, and these little plants and seeds don't like to either. So when you start off, dampen your growing medium a little bit. You might want to mist it in a container and then kind of mix it up. Just mix it with your fingers or whatever. And then before the seeds germinate, just mist the top of the soil just to keep it damp. You don't want it real wet because your seed might rot if the soil is too wet. And one thing that does really help are those plastic domes that you can fit over that tray that has all those little seed pots in there. But after the seed germinates, then you want to gently water the seedling at their base, not above, but at their base, because you don't want to get those leaves wet. And if you do, you might be encouraging some fungus to grow on those little tiny plants.
Yep, you're right. That's when you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah. So you can change the way that you water once those little transplants have at least 2 leaves on them, and then you could start watering them from the bottom of that container they're in.
Yeah, typically you have those plastic trays that you have the seeds planted in, sitting in some kind of a a tray of some
right.
sort.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually buy those at the store, and or you can use some other kind of trays that you you can use a cookie sheet.
Yep.
if I mean, really, it works. It
Yes.
works fine.
Yes.
You know, to do it like that. Okay, as long as you got a little bit of a lip around it to kind of hold the moisture.
But moisture is so important, but it's very important to remember not to overwater when they're small like that.
And I like what you said about, taking that potting soil and getting it a little moist prior to planting, because that potting soil, which has got a lot of peat moss in it, is very difficult to get wet.
Right.
Okay, sometimes. So adding a little bit of moisture, getting it nice and damp before you plant the seeds is very, very important. It really kind of is a nice hint.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. So good moisture levels, okay, and reasonable temps. And try to keep them in the 70s. Okay. You'll have your best luck that way.
Sounds good.
So thank you for listening, and I hope that was all helpful, and hope to have you with us next time around.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.